Hello, empowered woman. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Woman podcast. I am so excited for this episode because I've never done this before in so many ways. First of all, I just had my first ever $10,000 launch, and I had to share more about it with you, but also hash out the psychology and the strategy behind it with my amazing mentor, Gaby Abrams, who is a master launcher. She's been on the show before when we weren't even working together, and now I'm bringing her back to sprinkle her magic on you and encourage you to take action. I also want to invite you to my upcoming online class, Step Up, Speak Up, and Show Up, all about taking action, overcoming your fears, creating an action plan. It'll be amazing. All the links are in the show notes. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to start believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to succeed, and let your voice be heard to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marta Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Well, thank you so much, Gabby, for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for our Diva chat.
Yes, it'll be amazing. So you have spoken to my membership a couple of times. The people that are super active in my world have known about you, but for the people that are not too familiar, I would love for you to introduce yourself. And I'm actually turning this into a podcast episode, which you've been on my podcast as well before, but then it'll be a follow-up with more in-depth conversation on working together. So
awesome. Well, I'm so excited. So I'm Gaby Abrams, and I am a lawyer turned business coach, and I'm certified in rapid transformational therapy. So I mix the subconscious and business strategy to help my clients have really big results and finally take action on things that they've been waiting on.
Yes. And well, speaking of taking action, I started working with you in the Dreamer to Doer program. And for a while, like I knew I wanted to work with you and to go through the whole process, but the name of it was something that kind of took me aback because for me, I am a doer. So it's like, okay, so what are we doing here? Because I am a doer. And sometimes I actually feel like I don't spend as much time dreaming because I'm so busy always doing. However, there's always different things. I'm a firm believer in experimentation and, seeing what works and trying new things. And of course, when you're working with somebody super successful and they say, this is what works for me, I'm up for trying it. And that was one of the things that more recently with my launch was something that I experimented with, not only launching an offer that I hadn't launched before or that I did attempt, but it was in a different format and it didn't work. So I was like traumatized. And, but also the style of launching, which is very different the way that you do it, at least compared to other things that I have seen. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about the Dreamer to Doer, what that means, and then we'll go into the launching.
Yeah. So I think it's so funny because I'm a doer too, right? Like I love being active and doing things. And then there are so many things. What I found in my last business, I've been an entrepreneur now for 6 years. And so in my last business, what I found is that I was doing a lot, but not doing. Like I wasn't focused on needle moving activities and I wasn't doing the scary things. And I was like almost like keeping myself in this cycle of familiarity where I wasn't really growing. And when I came to launch, I feel like it's always launching that triggers this, right? When you're going to put out an offer, you're going to put out a program. And when I went to launch, I had been an Etsy seller for 5 years at that point. And I was like, I know so many things about Etsy. Let me put out this program. And when I went to launch it, I was like terrified. It took me months and months, a year passed, and I still hadn't done it. And I kind of started to realize the psychology of doing new things was really scary. And it wasn't so much, the psychology of doing. Once you got yourself into a flow where you were consistently doing new things, it felt a lot easier. But that first 0 to 1 is so hard. And so that's kind of what we focus on in the program, right? It's really about the high level doing, the high level sabotages that are in your way, the high level, we talk about procrastination procrastination and self-sabotage, doing the thing and then spiraling, right? Which is, I think, another big thing. People will do the big scary thing or launch, and then they're like in bed for 2 months, and they don't want to launch again for another 6 or 7 months, right? And they keep themselves stuck in that cycle. So the focus is really doing with an emphasis on sustainability, as you've seen, right? It's not about just launching and having the 10K launch. It's about doing it so that you can do that every single month.
Right. Yes.
And then you can speed it and do it twice a month or however many times a month you want to do, because it just becomes your business, right? Where you're just of service and putting out offers and having people jump into your world, and you're having that exchange.
Yeah.
And it feels fun and it feels in flow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you said so many things. First, like the after, because I want to talk about that as well, like how I felt after, and so many things that came to mind that I want to share as well. Hi, Wendy. Thanks for joining us. Whoever is joining us, let us know that you're watching.
Hi, Wendy.
Have any questions or comments? So when you talked about, you being a doer, so that's something else that I forgot I wanted to touch on, because one of the reasons why I was so attracted to you and how you do things is because I see so many similarities in how I operate as well, besides the pink.
Yeah. It's like, our personalities are super similar.
I know, it's so fun. So to me, that's why I was like, but I am a doer. I know I don't want to join this to help me take action. I already do. But that's where I think people can get confused or tripped up. There are those that really struggle with actually doing things for various reasons. Personality type, maybe trauma, and self-sabotage, all that stuff. And then there are those of us who love doing things, but we're not necessarily focusing on the right things that we need to be focusing on, that moves the needle. And that has been me for the longest time. And I noticed a huge change last year. In fact, that's what I have been teaching ever since things started growing for me, especially last year, was being very strategic with the actions that you do. It's not half-assed. And I think, which brings me to a point here with more in the woo of see how it feels for you. And if it's, too hard, or if you feel strained, and if it depletes you, don't go there. And I think that's also a tricky thing, because then people may be like, oh, I don't feel like what you said. I'm so exhausted. I don't feel like launching again. So I'm going to wait 7 months. And it's like, that's not very good for your business in that sense, So I love that you said that, because there are misconceptions, and people can be like, well, I don't want to be taking action all the time because that's not my personality. Okay. So what are the things that you need to be doing to move you forward? Or taking action is not a problem for me, so I don't need any of this help. Well, but if you're not seeing the results, something. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, because it's like it's always what I call like a success hangover or a visibility hangover, because it doesn't even come from like success. It can be from like a live. You do a live and then suddenly you're like, oh my God, people watched it, and now I feel like so exposed, and people and those symptoms are so similar to exhaustion, burnout. And I see people that say, oh, I'm burnt out, and I'm like, you just are up leveling. You're having a success hangover, right? And when you can start making that distinction and start managing your energy on that back end, you don't have to do those huge gaps in between, right? You don't have to spend 3 months recovering from whatever thing you just did.
Right. And it's all in the strategy that you put into it and the energy management, which is something that you emphasize a lot.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like the specifics. So for me, and then you can share your side of it as well. First, it was a different offer that I hadn't launched before, which was a group coaching program. And because I asked specifically, being in the mastermind, I was like, all right, so I've been sitting in the 5K-ish a month for a while now, for a few months, which is great. I'm so happy, because a year ago, that wasn't even my reality. So amazing. What do you think I should do next? And you were like, you need a group coaching program. And I kind of already knew that, obviously, being in your program, like, man, I want to do this too, but it took, you were like, all right, over the edge, the cliff. And I was like, oh, that's so scary, because I tried doing something similar earlier in the year, but it was such a rough time. My husband got injured. I had come up with an offer that was super long, was 6 months. So I knew a lot of it was not in alignment. And that's why ultimately people weren't interested, and it didn't work out. Yeah. But then I was afraid. So I was doing other things that were giving me results, but not on the scale that I was wanting. focusing on my membership
Mm-hmm.
mostly. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you suggested that, I was like, oh, that's scary, but I want to do
Mm-hmm.
it because I want to try it. And the other thing being, you had just launched your launching program. So meta. You had just
Yeah.
launched your launching program, which you'll talk about in a minute. And one of the main things that I saw that was very different from what I had tried before was a longer open cart period.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had done, I think, a 10-day last year. So the last time I did something
Mm-hmm.
long was like a year ago. So that's why I was like, I don't want to do this. This is weird. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I haven't done it. So let's experiment
Mm-hmm.
it. I haven't done it in a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Yeah.
Because lots of people say, lots of people know that launching is exhausting. So why would
Mm-hmm.
you, what's the word,
Mm-hmm.
lengthen that process?
Mm-hmm.
Be done with,
Yeah.
do a flash sale of 24 hours,
Yeah.
but then you may not get that greater results because
Mm-hmm.
people are busy with their lives, they miss the
Mm-hmm.
deadline, they forget, and it's not even that
Mm-hmm.
they're not interested, it's just not enough time for them to actually decide that they
Mm-hmm.
want to see it because algorithm, all the things. So
Mm-hmm.
I was determined to try it. You had recommended around 10 days. I actually did it, I think, for 14 days because I started
Mm-hmm.
talking about it during the first day of my launch,
Mm-hmm.
which seems scary, but it also gave me some security because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about this, I'm warming them up to it. And I know
Mm-hmm.
the importance of warming people up, making them aware. So even though it was scary, I was trusting the process.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout, one of the things that you recommend is there are some days where nobody's going to be signing up. Nothing is going to be happening
Mm-hmm.
for a longer period of time. That's when
Mm-hmm.
you need to make sure you're not going crazy
Mm-hmm.
and, discounting or adding,
Yeah.
changing the plan because you're
Yeah.
desperate, because you're thinking
Yeah.
it is working.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, I'm going to stay the course.
Mm-hmm.
And even after I closed cart, a couple of people signed up too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was amazing. So now tell
Mm-hmm.
us your side of it.
Yeah, yeah, because I think that's really what it's about, right? It's, people always ask me, like, what's the number one thing that you see that makes a launch fail? First of all, your messaging, right? If your messaging is not on point, if the offer isn't good, if it's not what your people want,
Yeah.
it's going to flop. But you already knew that, right? You were super in touch with your audience. You knew that you had a good offer. Your messaging was super. We worked on messaging too. It was super solid. And then I always tell people, not promoting it enough.
Right.
Like that's the number one thing, is that people start off take off from the gate and think, oh, everybody's just going to sign up for this. This is going to be amazing. And then that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then people aren't prepared for that. And I'm like, it's going to happen to you. Right. Like it's going to happen. People are not going to sign up as fast as you want them to, regardless of, really, it's really about the 10 days, right?
Yeah.
When you have an open cart, it's like 10 days. It's not just like, I'm going to leave it open, but only promote days 1 and 2. And that's what ends up happening. And so I think the most important thing is like doing it in a way where you can show up for 10 days, right? Where you can show up and give, when to know, and also when to know when to give 100% and when you can give 75% and when you can give 50% and when that's enough, right?
Yeah.
Like I always tell people, mid-cart, 50%, make a post, show up 50%, but don't stress, right? Don't give all your energy at that point. Make sure that you're managing your energy, because at the end, you have that urgency on your side. You can really push. But it is, and that's what I love, is that you came out of there and it's like, a lot of emotions, which I think we can talk about, right? And a lot of excitement, but you don't come out exhausted.
Yeah.
Right? You don't come out depleted, like feeling like I can never do that again. It's a way of launching that's like really, really in flow with your personality already. And and when you can see like those kinds of results, it's like magic. You're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I could just create this like on demand.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I said. It was like, this has been waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that I just did it because it was there.
Yeah.
It was
Mm-hmm.
a matter of following through. But in terms of the feelings, so there were a few days, and I even made a post of it to really anchor in, and lots of people resonated with it and said, thank you for reminding me of that. They probably were mid-launch too. That so one of the things that I did in like, I think, I don't know, maybe day 4 or 5, because you usually say between day 3 and 7 is when please make sure
it's dead. Yeah, dead. Yeah, just ignore it.
Ignore it.
Don't let it get to you.
Yeah, go on vacation. Go do something.
Yeah, I'm always like, go do something. Go for a walk. Like if I'm not on vacation, I'll go to the beach. Like relax. Don't be like, people get so anxious and they're like, should I be DMing people? Should I be this? Should I be that? And I'm like, Save it for the end, right? If you're going to be DMing people, save it for the end. Save that energy for the end.
Right. And so that's one of the things that happened to me is I actually was doing an interpreting job, and it was a jury trials, and it lasted until 7:30 at night. So, I mean, in between stuff and breaks, I could kind of on my phone, but I was literally busy all day. There was, I couldn't, it's not like I was working a normal day.
Yeah.
And so that was the day that a bunch of stuff started happening. Somebody signed up for the VIP, which nobody had yet. And I was like, oh my gosh, everything's happening when I'm not there stressing paying attention to it. So I got to experience that, and it was great. And so one of the things that I decided to do when I was starting to feel myself kind of spiral of this is not working, like, because it's like nobody's going to sign up. One person signs up, I guess, only one person signing up. Then two people, and you're like, should I just cancel it? Should I run a group? And then 3, okay, this is better, but I mean, I was really going for 10. You know, start thinking about all that. And what I decided to do, I was like, I'm going to write the names of the first 100 women that come to mind that I have had contact with, and just putting myself in that space of why not? Maybe she will, you know, and because we create these limitations that only this one person can sign up. And if you don't, then that means no one's going to, and then you just create ideas. I was like, no, I'm open. Anyone can sign up. Tony Robbins can sign up. Let's
of course. If he wants to learn more about like this, you know, and why not, right? If he wants to learn more about like the psychology of women business, like there could always be a reason, right?
Exactly. So staying open to the possibilities, and that made me feel more in control and at peace. And then people kept doing it. And like I said, even after I stopped promoting it, and we had actually had our very first call, a couple of people said, I'm ready now. It's okay. And it's so interesting because before in other scenarios, so like even when I was in network marketing, it's like you tell people it's over, but then you're still chasing people and saying, you know, we already started, but you can hop in, just come in right now. And I wasn't even doing any of that. It was the people coming to me and saying, I don't care that you already had the first call. So it was just like such a different experience. I know a lot of it is not only the content, the messaging, but how I put it out there and how I approached it and how I was just open to receiving it, and it was incredible. So
yes, and you're so right that it really is like about the message, and it starts with you, right? It starts with you letting go and being like, I believe in this. However many of you are on board too, and it really, it's like you had a really empowering message, which was awesome. Like a really positive, you know, you weren't really, I always say like, don't talk to pain points, you know, really try to like uplift people, you know, and help them see where they could be at the end of this journey together, instead of, you know, and when you call in people like that, they're like all in. They're not coming from that place of fear. They're like really excited about it. It's a really different energy than when you're like telling people you need this or else you're never going to get this and that, you know, then you really call in people that are living in that space. And when you call in people like this, it feels fun. And like you see, you know, you have people that at the end, they're like, I've been sitting on it, but it's a yes, right? It took me a while to arrive at that yes, but now it is, and I'm all in.
Yeah.
And it's really fun.
And that is so true. I love that you emphasize the focusing on where they could be and the good things, because there is lots of, you know, schools of thought out there that talk about borderline, they don't say it, but borderline shaming people, right? Like, you don't do this, then your life is going to be miserable. There's no hope for you. And then what do you get? You get clients that are headaches because that's what you called in. They can't even help themselves. You can't do the work for anyone. So, and in this fashion, you're actually getting more motivated people, more empowered people, because that's what you led with. So
and I think a lot of it too is like empowering ourselves, right? And realizing our own kind of worth. Because then there are people that say like, but I should be helping people that are really down. I should be helping people that really need my help. And I should be, and it's like, it's okay to help who you are best served to help. It is okay to help who you will make the biggest impact on. It is okay, right, for you to work with clients that excite you too. And that's when you're going to be doing your best work. Right. And we have, you know, you and I, free content. We have all kinds of stuff, right, that you can join. We have low ticket stuff. We have high ticket stuff. Like we have stuff for everybody at every stage of the journey. And it's about calling in the person who's right for this stage.
Right. And empowering them to to turn around and do the same, especially since we're entrepreneurs, but with anyone in their lives, to be that kind of person in their business or in their personal lives as well. That is, I mean, that's an amazing ripple effect to have, and to have in mind, this is what I'm creating. It's these people that are helping each other. I'm not just making little monsters that are shaming other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it creates this huge vision, which now let's talk about the after. Cause I remember when
I wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
I'm glad that you brought that up. I was like, let's talk about how you feel and stuff.
Yes. Cause cause people were still coming in and all of that. And ultimately my goal was a 10K launch. That was what I said is like, I want to have my first 10K month, which I was super, super close. And then you said, well, what's going to take you over the edge really is a group coaching program. And I said, all right, well, I don't want just a month. I would like a launch for it to be 10K. And then, you know, things were coming in, but ultimately the last person that joined after we had started completed my 10K launch, which I was already super excited about it. Because we were so close anyways, plus one-on-one clients and stuff like that. Like it would have.
Yeah. And it's like, I always tell people like, let go of that control, right?
Yeah.
Like the money can come from, you know, if it ends up being like 2 1-to-1 people and a bunch of group or whatever, right? Just let it go. Let it go.
Yeah. And anything
it's going to come.
You're open to receiving.
But you got it in your way that you wanted it.
Yes.
You're like, I let go of the control, but I also got exactly what I wanted.
And then it happened and I was like, I want it again.
Yeah.
I want to do this again like tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is really fun. And people, you know, when you do it from this place and like all along the way too, I think it's so, what I've learned for myself, right, is that it's about, you know, people say, oh, managing the like the crash or whatever. And I'm like, you manage the crash before you crash, right? Like by managing your energy, like on the front end so that you don't crash. You can't pull yourself out of a crash, but you can like, it's easy to be like, all right, like, you know, getting really, really excited and be like, I'm so close to 10K. How am I going to push this? And letting your emotions get the best of you. And when you can just detach and be like, I'm just going to let it happen. Then you don't get that crash on the back end. So I was like, all right, awesome. You know, we were like managing that energy all along the way.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And that is so amazing. That's like the perfect analogy. Taking control of it or managing it before it happens. So, and that's what you already had advised me on is when you start feeling like that, go on vacation, go do something else, because that's when you're actually setting yourself up for awful feelings and not even failure, because I don't even believe in that, but you know, in your head, like I'm not going to reach the 10K or whatever goal that you were setting for. And then something else that came up for me was I'm used to already planning my months and having like, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. This is the event that I'm going to have. This is the offer that I'm going to push. This is what I teach to, like, have a plan, know what you're going to do each day. So you're not like, oh, I'm not going to do it anymore. But in a way, after doing this, it's like, it was so huge. I talked about it. Like it was successful. I started thinking, so is it bad for me to go and start selling something else? Like in my mind, that thought came like, here I go again. I just did this huge thing. People saw it. Now I do it again. Like, is this inconvenient? And I had to give my own pep talk, because that's what I tell people all the time. Like, this is your business. And then is when I had the thought, and I shared with you, I was like, this is what I get to do. I just planned this again to have amazing results again. Like, this is how we should be feeling about our business.
Yeah. And it's so fun to be able to get to do it. But you're so right. You know, you really do. It's like a visibility hangover. Like now everybody's seen you and you're like, who am I to get all this attention? Like, who am I to want more? You're like, that's it. People, it's so funny that you say inconvenient, because I feel like we all have our own word, right? Like, am I being inconvenient to other people? And it's like, for me, it's like, am I being selfish right now? You know, like getting that attention and being like, well, let me do it again. Right. Or let me do it again. And I have people that tell me like, my gosh, you're always launching, or you're always, and they say it like, that's so great, you know, but like, I'm like, oh, are you judging me? You know, like,
is it too much?
Oh no. Yeah. But I think that I'm like, no, that's the business that I want to run, right? Because I really do think, and we've talked about this over and over again, like selling is serving. You can help people at such a deeper level when you have a program and you work so much more closely with them. And to give them that option of doing a group program with you and not having to do one-to-one and not having to, you know, spend their money on that, and be able to just take a group program, build that community, have that connection with other people too. It's so magical. And like, why would you withhold it from someone just because you're worried about inconveniencing some imaginary person who's going to be offended that you're doing this again?
Oh my gosh, that's totally it. And that's the whole reason why I decided to do like towards the end of the month. Cause I even had one of my clients say, "You're doing something else." And I was like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, back to what we were saying, energy management, it's okay. I can do it. And I don't feel like I am forcing it. It's the natural progression of things. I kind of took a whole week where I wasn't promoting anything, but I was still visible because this is who I am. This is what I like doing. I wasn't forcing it. Because I think for some people, when they watch us, because we like the visibility, and that's not the case for everyone, they may think that this is how they need to do it to be successful. And I always say, you have to do what feels good for you. And I was even sharing the other day inside one of the groups of how one of my clients even said, based on my human design and personality, like, no wonder you do the things the way you do. This is how you operate. This is how you are. And that's so important for you to be in tune with yourself, and not that you're copying, because Gabby's always launching, I have to do it the same way, but understanding the same thing. Is it because it's not your personality, or because you're worried that you're being convenient, right? Or because you're afraid of the rejection in case you put the offer out there and nobody's going to buy. So there's many other things that come into play.
Many other things. Yeah. And I think people always project, I always tell people when they tell me like, oh, I'm burnt out. I'm like, why? Why are you burnt out? Like, are you physically doing a lot? The truth is that we don't physically do a lot in our business, right? Like there is.
You shared the other day, the thinking.
I love the thinking. Yeah. I'm like, you're burnt out because of your own thoughts, because you're stuck in indecision, because you are overthinking. It's you that is burning yourself out. You're burning out your brain, but you're not burning out your body. The symptoms that you're feeling in your body are a manifestation of like what's going on in your head, right? So clear out your head. What can you do? Take a walk, deep breaths.
Right.
Start getting into that space where you start taking fast decision, and another thing that I love about the way that I launch, and that I've been trying to, that I always try to convey is that it's super low risk, right? When you launch this way, it's really, really low risk. You're not doing that up and down where you have your entire salary for 4 months riding on this launch, right? You are just like putting something out there that feels fun, that feels intuitive. You're getting the results from that. If it doesn't go great, doesn't matter, right? If it goes amazing, great, but you can do it again next month, right? You can do this over and over again because you have that, because it feels fun. It feels like it's in alignment and there's no risk involved. So I'm always telling people like, there's no reason for you to burn out from this place. Right? Like if it feels like you're burning out, do something different.
No, and that makes so much sense, because lots of the people that teach do 2 huge launches a year. Then how are you getting income the other times? Like, what's the plan? I mean, if you have a plan and it's working for you, great. But if you don't, then that's not a very smart way of running a business. And that's because they're saying it's super stressful, so limited to twice a year. If you're able to do it in a not, and that's what you said too. Now that you're finished the launch, how can you make it even simpler the next time? Because I have people that come back to me and they say, well, I noticed that I didn't do this and I can do this thing next time. And I'm like, don't do that, right? Like now that you launch, look back and say, what did I do that did it? Like take stuff away. Don't add stuff to what you did, right? Tell yourself, and once you get it like super, super pared down and you're like, okay, I did these 3 things, try it next time, just doing those 3 things that worked. Right. And try it again, and then you can start adding stuff when you're in the place where it's like really, really so easy that you're like, I can do something. I can do a paid masterclass. I can do whatever. I can go on vacation, like do all these things, as you get into flow, play around with like pushing your limits. But at the beginning, keep it simple, simple, simple. Right. Because that's how you overwhelm yourself. And a lot of it is the self-sabotage. Like, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to be exhausted. Can't do it again. I'm going to have to wait 2 months to do it. So you're doing this to yourself instead of being at peace, being open, all of the different things that I experienced that were amazing. And Mia is actually the human design expert that was like, that's why you do it.
No wonder. Yes. Yeah. Because you and I have super similar human design. Well, we're generators, which means that like this stuff, it makes us buzz. Like it's what lights us up is this like excitement of launching and, being ourselves and sharing and showing up. It's like what gives us energy. Some people are not like that, but I always tell people, find what works for you, right? And the truth is that nobody can tell you how you're going to work in alignment except for you. That's your job.
Yeah.
And I have clients that come and they're like, is it my, nobody's buying, is it my messaging? Is it this? And I'm like, that's your job as an entrepreneur, right? This is your only job. I can help you, but your only job is to figure out, okay, what is it that I could say differently that would land with people? Like, that's like that's what we're doing.
It is.
That's like our business, right? Is figuring out the content. You do that, right? Like the message, the content that's going to land. That's all that you have to do as an entrepreneur.
Right. And
that's the mystery.
No one can do it for you. And I mean, I could go on with people like not even knowing their messaging and running ads and hiring a copywriter. And I'm like, all those things are great in a specific time that you're prepared for it. Otherwise, you're going to set yourself up for failure and then say, entrepreneurship is not for me. This is just too hard. This is just too stressful. Well, how are you thinking about it? And I 100%. And also because we want somebody to just tell us, what exactly should I say this? I think all of us, and I saw a post of you yesterday, behind every successful entrepreneur, there is listening to a frantic voice message. Is this right? Is anybody going to buy this? Should I invent a bonus? Should I discount this? Is the price too high? What if I do 50% off? Right. Like all out of the blue, like crazy stuff. And we all want to have that answer. And that's something else that I shared, is that I love that you always say, what does your gut tell you? I love it. And I hate it because it's like, I want you to tell me. Because you'll ask me stuff. I'm like, there's no, and some of the stuff I'm like, 100% from a strategy perspective, I think you should do this. Some of the other stuff you're like, should I do this or do that? I'm like, I can't tell you that, right? Like that is, there's no right answer, right? There is just no right answer. It really has to be the right answer for you that's going to drive the results. Like people ask you, like, should I launch on a Tuesday or Wednesday? I'm like, there's no right answer. It doesn't make a difference, right? It depends, like, is your, moving forward, are Wednesdays going to be better for you? Or Tuesday's going to be better for you? All of these questions that we get so hung up on. Because we think that they make a huge difference and that there is like a right answer, and there's just not. There isn't. Yeah. And I remember you saying this on the calls all the time. There is no right and wrong. There is no right answer. And it's just, and that's what we don't really want to hear, because it's like, do it like this and you're going to have amazing results, but it doesn't always work exactly like that. And oh my gosh, don't even get me started on feeling resentful with mentors. Cause it's like, you told me to do this and it didn't work. Yeah. And I think so much of it is that, right? That it's like easier that we want someone to blame. Like it's like we want to push off the responsibility a little bit. We're like, oh, like I just want, because that way, like it's someone else's fault if something goes wrong, and it's also someone else also gets the credit if it goes right, And it's like, no, you want to be in the place where you're responsible for the bad, but you're also responsible for the good, where you can walk away and be like, I did that, Like you messaged me, you're like, thank you so much. I'm like, that you did it. It was you, like reaping what you've sown for so long, right? Just like coming full circle in full alignment. Yeah. Well, and it really goes back to two things. First, getting hung up on those details, which already sets you up for the stress, for the burnout, because it's like, oh crap, I launched on a Thursday. It should have been another one. Like, stop. Next time. And then the other point is, okay, if that's the case, next month, do it the different way. If that's what you're feeling. Sweet. It's not like you're closing up shop. Hopefully. Exactly. Yeah. And going through, after you launch, writing down all the things that you felt worked and all the things that you feel didn't work, so that you remember while it's fresh in your head, being like, I didn't really like, doing a live at this time, right? I felt like my energy wasn't there. I should have done it in the morning. Next time, do it in the morning. And that's the important, I always tell people, like I took a program where the lady would say, data, not drama. I love that. And I was always like, oh, I love that, because she was like, all of these things, like you can get it, over analyzing and being like, oh, now I'm not getting the results. It's because of this. She's like, or you can look at data and be like, all right, what was very clear that it worked and what was very clear that it didn't work, and what can I do differently next time? And that's what entrepreneurship is. It's like tinkering with the process. Totally. And not being afraid of it, because a lot of it goes back into all the subconscious of rejection and everything else. Like, what if I do it again? Because that's the temptation too. Like, oh, I want to do it again. It's fun. But also in the back of my mind, oh, it's not going to happen that easy. Not this time. That was the easy time. That was a fluke, but this time it'll be different. And it's like, I always tell people, like, people talk about lack in terms of money.
And I'm like, there's lacking so many different ways. Like, you're going to feel like, oh, well, I just tapped out. Like, everybody that signed up in the entire world is already in this. Like, who is even left? All the people that like me already buy from me. Like, there's nobody else in the world that could possibly like me. All the people that bought from me like me, but they're not going to like me for that long, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many ways that we get that lack, and we all feel it. And I'm like, it's just the same thing, right? It's just the same thing as like this idea that there's, not enough money or whatever.
Yeah.
Same principles.
Let's see. There are a few ladies saying, Jenny said she's going to catch the replay. Mia said, generator buzz is a perfect description of our energy field when we are aligned and doing what we love. And then something else, she said, it's like we're afraid to operate in our own power. It really is. We don't really know what to do with it. And we're just somebody else's shadow for several reasons. But yeah. And Susan just hopped in as well. Awesome. Well, besides Dreamer to Doer, which you already covered, tell us about the magic launch formula. I always say the name wrong.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Magic launch formula. So it's so good. I like, it's an evergreen thing. So I never really think about it because I did like the one launch. I'm like, but it's open all the time because you can do it yourself. And it's like the easiest launch formula that you will ever have. It really is so simple. When it was so nice to have that Facebook group where people are like, oh my gosh, I never thought that I could launch like this, And then what happened is that people show up, you have your energy there, you give it your fullest. So Magic Launch Formula is like this really, really short self-study program that's going to teach you everything that you need to have a successful launch in the easiest way possible, the most aligned way to your energy. And my clients have used this, right? This is pretty much what I do. I have a 6-week program for one-to-one, where we mostly launch group programs, and my clients have amazing results, right? Like, it's not just Marta with 10K. I had someone else that had, it was her second launch. She had $85,000. Other people have had like sold out launches their first time, 30K launches, 25K days, right? Like, this is normal when you're feeling fun and feeling like it's in alignment. And so I packaged it up and I made it a self-study program. So that's the course. It's really great. If you're someone that is launching or looking to launch, it's $497. So it's not a crazy price commitment either. And it's awesome.
Yay. Yes. So after we're done here, if you can go back and put the links.
Yeah. And I feel like the real game changer, like talking to people, is the recording that you listen to. Did you listen to the recording?
Oh yeah. Totally.
While you launched, because it comes with like a guided meditation recording that you can listen to nightly, and it's kind of like priming your brain for, it's really like Olympians. The most powerful tool that they have is visualization, right? If you talk to any of them, they have visualized every single thing, like down to the split second, especially swimmers and runners, right? Where it's really like that time driven thing. They've like visualized everything down to that last second, to getting out of the water, to getting the medal put on them, right? They visualize this moment so that they don't self-sabotage themselves, right? So that it's familiar, so that it feels good. And it's the same principle when you're launching, right? Launching is really like a high performance sport.
Yeah.
Where you're, it really is, where you're really just, and it's so important to have that visualization, right? Which is what the meditation helps with. It takes away the fear. It gives you that calm so that you can have that sustained energy all throughout.
And what I love about your recordings, when you have the themes, because I have several of them, like when it's money, when it's visibility, but then for the launch ones, is that you have that specific language that usually when you're just listening to like success, like you go on YouTube or, which it's not RTT, but just in general terms, like people are used to, let me listen to something to calm myself down. And it's great. But I love the language of like, I wake up and my clients are messaging me, or people are messaging me and telling me, I want to work with you. Like, that's what we're telling ourselves. And it's all on there, like your conversion event and we're signing up. Like it's
like super launch specific. It's like, you're going to have an amazing launch. Let's walk through it.
I love the language on that. It's amazing. Well, and before we wrap up, I do want to encourage people as well to check out the masterclass that I'm putting out next week, which is my continuation. So for those of you who haven't joined, or even for the ones who did join the 6-week program that I just launched very successfully, I decided to put this together, which is, lower investment. You can hop in and get some value on confidence, on overcoming fears to actually take action. And back to what we were saying, whether you are an action taker, that does not necessarily mean that you are moving the needle and doing things that are helpful, even if you are doing lots of things, because
which we know the hard way.
Yes, totally. Or people that the perfectionists, the ones that, overthink, don't take action. This will be a great opportunity as well to learn some
I'm
specific.
so excited for you, and I can't wait to see what else is coming.
Yay!
And I just love, and it's also, I want to highlight something, right? Like you have had this incredible success and you've shared it and you've been met, I've been seeing your posts and seeing the comments, and you've been met with so much love.
Yes.
Like there's nothing, people get so nervous about what's going to happen once you have success and how much things are going to change. I'm like, if you choose that it just means more love for you, it's just going to mean more love. People love to support people that are happy. People love to see people that are in flow and in alignment. It's so magnetic. It's so amazing to watch. And it makes people feel happy for you, happier with themselves too.
Right. And it's also a way of saying, this is not just for me. You can have this too. And I will say, one thing, we may be afraid of sharing our success because then it's like, oh, I'm triggering people. And I've seen several of your posts that saying, I do want to trigger you because I want you to change and I want you to grow. And that's something that I've learned a lot, honestly, Gabby, heart to heart, like wanting to be around you, even though we are so close. Like in the past, I would have been like, snooze, not unfriended. Like it's too much. She's too successful and she's too much like me. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I've learned to like, no, I'm going to face this and I'm going to be around her because if she's a lot like me, that means this is available for me as well. I want to hang out with the person that's doing what I want to do.
Yeah, which is such a magical place to be, and we can talk about this like all day, right? The way that we are trained to feel like someone having something means that it's not available to us. And we're taught that, right? From like such an early age in so many different ways, right? I like even look at math problems and it's like, if I give you 4, then I had 5, then I'm left with 1, right? And it's like just the way that we learn math. And so it's the way that we think,
Yeah, it is.
Hardwired.
Michelle Wasserman says, love you ladies. Yay!
Hi, Michelle. Hi.
I'm so excited. All right. Well, Gabby, thank you so much for hopping on, for your time.
Thank you. This was so fun.
You're amazing. And I can't
Thank
wait.
You. You too.
Watch the
You too.
Also,
love you so much.
Really
all right.
Wasn't that so fun? I just love what I do. You get to meet amazing people. You get to have these amazing conversations. It's just awesome. So don't forget to connect with Gabby. All the links are in the show notes, and also to come check out my upcoming masterclass. There will be a replay available, so even if you can't make it live, you'll be able to watch the replay. If you're stuck on whatever it is, on an idea, and you want it to put it out into the world and take action, this is for you. Or if you are naturally an action taker, but you haven't really been achieving your goals for whatever reason, this is also what we're going to cover and create a plan for you to reach what you want to reach. So I hope to see you there. Until next time, bye.